Hello, Angels fans. Well, here we are again. It's 2023. We haven't made the playoffs since 2014, and it looks like we're not going to make the playoffs again this season because our pitching is a disaster. I was at the game 2 days ago when the Angels came back and won 13-12. It was one of the best games I've ever seen in person at Angel Stadium. And then yesterday, as you know, the Angels lost 9-8 after being ahead 7-3, and then the bullpen completely collapsing. And now they're 2 games under 500. They're 6 games out of a wild card spot. It is July 15th. I should say July 17th. And we have less than 2 weeks to go before the trading deadline happens. And Shohei is probably going to be traded if the Angels were smart. Anyway, having said that, who's to blame? Now, most people would say Phil Nevin is to blame. And yeah, he's not the perfect manager. I totally get that. But I think this guy has heart, and he's trying his very best to do what he can to make this team successful. But I think the bigger issue is the pitching coach. And Matt Wise is just an awful pitching coach. And I'm going to prove it with the statistics that I'm going to show you in a second, right? Now, let's begin with telling you that we have 3 relievers on the IL right now. Now, I'm not blaming Matt Wise for that. I'm blaming the strength and conditioning coaches for that. But that doesn't help his case by any means. And so Sam Bachman, Ben Joyce, and Chris Devenski are currently on the IL. Now, let's talk about Chris Devenski. Before he went on the IL, he had a 3.10 ERA by the end of June. See, he was really solid, and we thought, oh yeah, this is the guy that was great with the Astros at the beginning of his career. And then so far this month, he's pitched 4 2/3 innings. He's given up 11 hits, 9 runs, and 3 walks. And this is the mind-blowing stat: a 17.36 ERA. Now his season ERA is 5.08. That's almost 2 runs more than the 3.10 ERA he had at the end of June. So he's completely been a disaster at least this month. And for the whole season, he has been reliable. Jacob Webb is kind of a similar situation. He's kind of a reclamation project. He was good at the beginning of his career, and then he kind of tailed off. And the Angels thought, well, let's just give him a chance. But at the end of June, he had an ERA of 2.41. He had a really solid June, 2.13. His July ERA is 8.44. And now he has a 3.75 season ERA. So his ERA jumped 1.3 runs. And he has had 1 loss and 1 blown save this month. So he's on the downward spiral as well. Jose Soriano, this rookie has been pretty good for the Angels. I can't complain. He's been one of the bright spots. At the end of June, he had a 2.38 ERA. This month, he's pitched 4 1/3 innings. He's given up 2 runs, 1 home run, 6 walks. And his ERA has been 4.15. Not horrible, but he kind of digressed this month as well. But his season ERA is 2.87, so he's still doing really well. So he's one of the bright spots for us, which I'm really happy with. Aaron Loup, everyone, or at least every Angels fan, cannot stand Aaron Loup, and there's a reason for it. He's been poor for most of the season. He had a solid June. He had a 2.16 ERA in June, which was pretty surprising. Most of that was because the Angels were losing by a lot, and they just threw him in. There's no pressure, so he did pretty well in those situations. But this month, he's back to his old self. He's had 4 1/3 innings. He's given up 4 runs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts, and an 8.31 ERA. So he's back to his old self. He's digressed again. Tucker Davidson, who we got in the trade when we sent Raisel Iglesias to the Braves. In April, he was solid, 2.40 ERA. In May, he was a disaster, 15.75 ERA. Didn't get much of a chance to pitch that much after that. In June, 4.5. And to make a long story short, he has not done well at all this season. He has a 6.54 ERA for the whole season. Not good again. Matt Moore has been another bright spot for the Angels, but he just came off the IL. But on Saturday, after coming back from the IL, he pitched 2/3 of an inning. He gave up 3 hits and a home run, which actually caused the Angels to almost lose that game. Miraculously, they came back and won that game. But having said that, again, he's still another bright spot because for the season, he has a 2.10 ERA. And then Carlos Estevez, he was the Angels' all-star pitcher. But he had a terrible game yesterday. He came in the 8th inning because Nevin wanted him to pitch to the heart of the Astros order, and he pitched 1 inning, gave up 2 hits, 2 earned runs, and a home run. So he had a bad game yesterday as well. So it just seems like all of our pitchers are doing bad at the worst possible time, you know. And again, Estevez and Moore and Soriano have been good, but on the whole, the bullpen has been terrible. And then we go to the starters. We have Tyler Anderson. His season, he's had a 4-2 record, 5.17 ERA. He had a great season with the Dodgers last season. This season, terrible. And he's given up 10 home runs. He has a 1.55 whip. Patrick Sandoval, we thought he was going to be great. He did well in the WBC, right? This season, he's 4-7 with a 4.41 ERA with a 1.47 whip. Not good. Griffin Canning, 6-4 with a 4.62 ERA. He's given up 15 home runs. Terrible. Reed Detmers, he looks good in some outings, and then he just loses his focus. He's 2-6 with a 4.42 ERA. He's given up 11 home runs. Shohei Ohtani, he's obviously one of the greatest hitters ever. And pitching, he's excellent. But this season, he's been kind of good. I wouldn't say great from the pitching standpoint, but still pretty good. But I would say he hasn't been as good as last season. But he has a 7-5 record with a 3.50 ERA, but he's given up 14 home runs. Unbelievable. That's just astounding. 14 home runs. That's awful. Jaime Barria, he's been mostly a reliever this season. He had a couple chances at starting, and right now, at the end of May, he had a 1.59 ERA, then it was 5.87 ERA in June, and then yesterday he tried to get his first save when Nevin put Estevez in the 8th and then put Barria in for the 9th, and he had a horrible outing. Pitched 1 inning, gave it 3 hits, 4 runs, 2 home runs, a walk, and now his season ERA is at 3.77 when it was at 1.59 at the end of May. So what I'm trying to say is, I don't understand how Matt Wise has a job. He has not really improved any of our pitchers. They have all had a disappointing season. Even Shohei, he hasn't had a great season. He's been good, but he hasn't been Shohei. And I blame Matt Wise. He's not the answer. So just to add to that, let's look at the team stats. So the Angels pitching is 11th in strikeouts. They are 21st in batting average. So there are 9 teams that are worse than the Angels, right? Just 9 teams. They are tied for the 3rd worst in home runs. They've given up 142 home runs, which is a mind-blowing stat. They're also 21st in hits. They are the 8th worst in walks. They are the 7th worst in ERA at 4.55. So, again, it comes down to pitching. If the Angels pitched well, we would make the playoffs. They made some good decisions with signing Mike Moustakas, what am I saying? And Escobar from the Mets, right? And we've made some good decisions with that. And I think our lineup is pretty good despite us not having Rendon in the lineup, not having Trout in the lineup, and not having Drury in the lineup right now. So once again, it's the pitching. The pitching has to come through. But I say to you right now, why does Matt Wise still have a job? he needs to be fired.